Hey guys, I'm Sarah. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my September reading wrap-up, the regular vlog style that I've been doing it as, and yeah, okay. I don't know how many books are actually going to be on this video, because it is like, already September 19th, and I'm just filming the first clip now. September hasn't exactly been the best and brightest of my reading life so far. I got into this weird, I wouldn't really call it a slump, but I got into this really weird headspace of where I didn't really want to read much, or I read, but it like wasn't engaging me, even though some of the books did. It was super weird. So that is why I'm also behind, which is why I'm doing it so late. But regardless of that, yeah, this is the first clip. I don't know if there'll probably be at least one more, but anyways, regardless of that, welcome to the reading wrap-up. If you're interested in more details like content, thoughts, whatever that I may have forgotten about these books and may have expounded upon more, all my Goodreads reviews for these books will be linked down in the description below, so feel free to check those out and do your own research to see if any of these books would be good fit for you. And so far, we have a variety of stuff. It's actually kind of a strange variety now that I think about it. But the very first book I read for this month was one of H.O. Burke's superhero romance project books, and that is Second Chance Superhero. This is the fourth? No, it's the third? It's the third or the fourth book in the series. I think it's the third one. Okay, yeah. It's book 3 in the series. I don't have it, so I didn't write it down. So, in this book we follow Braden. He's a superhero, and he's back in his hometown because his mother had an accident, and he's kind of her only family member. He doesn't have the greatest relationship with his mother, which, you know, after meeting her, I can see why she's a piece of work. So, anyways, he's back in town to take care of her until he can just go back to his superhero life and stuff like that, because he does not want to remember things in this town, when he bumps into his ex-girlfriend from high school, Rachel. Rachel is also back in town. She works as a doctor at the hospital, and she is just trying to keep her life together after her failed marriage. She's just trying to keep things stable for her son and stay out of trouble because his dad is like bad news. But yeah, she and Braden reconnect, and they didn't really leave on the greatest of terms when they broke up back in high school, and yeah, it goes from there. The author calls this series basically like superhero rom-coms, so it follows those kinds of tropes. This is a second chance romance. I wasn't so sure about this at first because second chance romance, I don't really have a bad track record with those, but from the way the description on the back of the book went, I was expecting like Rachel to be really petty, catty, that type of thing. So I was very surprised when she wasn't. Braden I really liked from the beginning. He is also in one of the supervillain romance project books. He pops up in accidentally a supervillain. I really liked him in that book, so I was very excited to recognize his name, and I realized he was the main character in this book. And yeah, I ended up really loving this book. I read it in a day. I just kept reading it because it was just like, well, you know, I didn't really have that many pressing things to do that day, and I was just like, well, I just want to keep reading this, so I did. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, some trigger warnings for Rachel's ex-husband. He is a stalker. He does kind of verbally manipulate and gaslight our main character. He just does a lot of terrible things. Pretty much just in that vein, it's basically just like verbal abuse, and he's a stalker. So that's pretty much it as far as trigger warnings go. It was very intense. The author wrote it really well, and she handled the subject matter very well alongside the cute romance that was developing between Braden and Rachel again. And yeah, I really enjoyed this. I thought it was really good. So I think even if you don't like second chance romance, you would like this one because it made sense why they broke up and why they kind of had some bad relationship in the beginning. But when they reconnect, they kind of like butt heads, obviously, because they still have hurt feelings over that. But they get over it quickly because, you know, they're both adults. They act like adults. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. This one, like, made my day. I really liked this book. I gave this one 5 stars. Okay, the next book I read was a reread. That is Rapunzel's Tale. This is just a short little chapter book of the movie Tangled from Rapunzel's point of view only. And it's really good. I can't say much, I don't have anything much more to say about it because that's basically what it is. The author nailed Rapunzel's personality perfectly. This definitely felt like her thoughts and feelings and stuff like that. So yeah, it's really good. I enjoy it, and yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about it. I gave it 4 stars. Then I reread another book. I suddenly got the urge to read this series, and specifically to reread this one because I read this book for the first time 4 years ago. It was in 2021. I think I read it before I did BookTube, because I'm pretty sure I started my channel in 2021. I don't fully remember that because it's numbers and dates and I don't remember things like that. Anyways, this book, because I suddenly got the urge to read the whole series, which I never continued doing, so I decided to go back and reread this one, and that is Illuminated by J.R. Castle. This is Christian fantasy, and I mistakenly called this, like, similar to Pilgrim's Progress when I first read it. It is not. It has a few allegorical bits and bobs that feel kind of like a allegory type story like Pilgrim's Progress or the Kingdom series by Chuck Black, but it is not. It is a fantasy series with a few allegorical elements. So, in this one, this is the first book of the White Road Chronicles. This is a Christian fantasy series, like I said. In this, we follow our main character who, at the very beginning of this book, does not know her name. She has amnesia, she does not remember anything, and yeah, she lives in this terrible wicked kingdom. The wicked king Darnell is trying to, like, convince her to continue living with him as, like, his daughter and stuff. She's not his daughter, she knows that, and yeah, there's just a lot of, like, conflict there. She's trying to, like, escape, and she has heard her whole life about this fairy tale kingdom called Allowblaze, where the good King Shaden lives, and rules peacefully, justly, stuff like that. She wants to go there. She wants to find somewhere that's safe, basically. And then, through a series of circumstances, she ends up on the White Road, which is basically the King's Highway, King Shaden's highway, that will lead to Allowblaze. And she sets out on that journey to discover, like, her memories, her past, herself. She meets people along the way. She gathers friends. It's a whole adventure. I enjoyed it the first time I read it, but I first read it as, I read this as an ebook again, but I first read it as an ebook on my phone, and that's back when I started trying to get into ebooks, and I only had my phone for access, and I hate reading on my phone because it's the computer screen thing. I got weird eyes. I do enough things on the computer, so it always took forever for me to read ebooks when I read it that way. Now, since I have a Kindle Paperwhite, I read ebooks a lot more because it's basically like reading. It's basically like reading a book. It's just a screen format, so it's very easy for me to read, and it doesn't bother my eyes. So yeah, if you're ever wondered about that, yes, the Kindle Paperwhite is basically just like reading a glowing book, a glowing paperback or hardcover book. I don't read it much in the dark with it glowing, but I have a few times, and it hasn't really bothered me much, which generally that would if it's a computer, so props to that. Anyways, besides that, so it took me forever to read it the first time, but I still really enjoyed it the very first time I read it. I gave it 4 stars when I first read it. Upon this reread, I gave it 5 stars, because I just really enjoyed it even more. I remembered pretty much everything that happened, which, you know, for a book I read 4 years ago only once and very, very slowly at that, I was surprised that I remembered literally everything. There were a couple of spots where I was like, oh, this does happen somewhere around here, right? So, you know, I didn't exactly remember placements of everything, but for the most part, I pretty much remembered the whole story. Which, you know, for a book I read once 4 years ago, that's pretty good. Yeah, I really love this book. I love the characters. Our main character is great. I don't want to say her name because technically, she doesn't have one at the beginning. It is spoiled if you read the back because it does mention her name. But, yeah, definitely the amnesia trope because I'm currently reading book 2 and she still doesn't remember everything. I really like the allegorical elements and the main character, or the main Jesus type character, the guy who represents Jesus, Isa, I believe is how you say his name, Isa. I'll put it down here on the bottom. But he is probably the best Jesus type character I've ever read. He's up there with like Aslan from Narnia, in my opinion, which I know is like high praise. But I just love the way she wrote him. I mean, it's just, yeah, he's an amazing character. I mean, obviously he's representing Jesus, but you know, I just really like the way she represented him and wrote him as that character. So yeah, really like that. Really like all the other characters. There's magical creatures. There is magic in this story, but it's more like people who are born into having powers. They don't like gain them or stuff like that. Obviously King Darnell is our bad guy. He uses like dark stuff, dark magic and things like that. Actually, it's not really described what he does, but I'm pretty sure that's going to come later in the series. Yeah, so there is magic in this story, but it's more like natural magic that people are born with or whatever. There are magical creatures, like our main character makes friends with a couple of centaurs. There's other magical creatures and races and beings that the author herself has come up with. But yeah, I really, really like this series. And yeah, I'm very excited to continue. Really love this first book, and I'm currently reading the second book, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm just going to talk about this book that I finished last night, then we're going to go back to a couple of volumes I read earlier this month, because I have a lot to say about this. So, I don't have much to say about this one. That is The Palamino by Virginia Vale. This is a contemporary, like, horse type story. This is a mystery. I read this for Chantel's Read Your Bookshelf Challenge, which the prompt for this month was like puzzles, codes, and ciphers, or a mystery. And I didn't know of any books that had puzzles, codes, or ciphers in them, and I don't read that many mysteries, so I decided to just reread this one. This is a mystery book that I really liked from my childhood. In this book, basically a property developer offers our main character Tess's uncle a lot of money for his property and his horse farm and stuff, but her uncle refuses because he doesn't want to sell his property. And then after that, a lot of these like weird vandalism attempts on like injuring horses and riders and stuff like that, things just start going crazy. So Tess and her friends band together to try to figure out who is doing this. Does it have anything to do with her uncle not wanting to sell his property, or what is going on? So yeah, it's basically that story. Can't say much more. It's a very short book. I really enjoyed this. Really like the characters. Tess has a very good head on her shoulders. It's just a lot of fun. It's a really solid mystery. Good characters, good characterization. Not much more I can say about it. I really enjoyed this book, and I've enjoyed it every time I reread it. I gave this book 4 stars. Okay, so now we come to the main event that I don't really know how to talk about. So, we come to my, not necessarily problem children, but like, I don't know. You'll see when I explain, because one of these I've written a review for so far, one of whom I have not, and the review will be up by the time this video is up, obviously, but, yeah. That is Sailor Moon Volume 3 and Volume 4. These cover the, I believe they call it the Black Moon arc, so yeah, of this story, and I gave both of these volumes 3 stars. Yeah, which, you know, if you watched my August reading wrap-up, you know I gave the second volume 5 stars. And then back in, I think it was July or early August, I forget when, I gave the first volume 4 stars. So this is a decrease. I'm gonna go ahead and put this one down for now, because these editions are heavy. But, okay. So, what do I say about this? I can't say much about the plot line. It's just a new enemy is attacking Sailor Moon and her friends, and at this point, they also have a new character, Chibiusa, as they call her. She is she looks like she's 6-year-old child that suddenly just, at the end of Volume 2, fell out of the sky on top of Usagi Amamaru, and yeah, she basically, yeah, and she's there, and they're not sure why, and things go from there. There's time travel involved in this arc. There's a bunch of crazy stuff involved. Mainly, the plot for this one is insane. It starts with me, it just runs, breakneck pace. It goes everywhere. I think I have, after thinking about it for a bit, and actually I read a review of a completely different book that my friend was talking about on Goodreads. She was writing a review for a different manga series entirely, and she mentioned in that one that the plot that the characters weren't pushing the plot was pushing the characters, and I realized that is what is happening in this arc. The characters do not push this plot. The plot is happening, and the characters are reacting to the plot happening. They have no effect on the plot. Like in the first 2 volumes, the characters were kind of always affecting the plot to a certain degree, which is what you want in stories. You do not want the plot to treat your characters like a punching bag. That is what was happening in these 2 volumes, and I just realized that. But yeah, this it doesn't even make sense either, because it's like, why are they trying to do what they're doing with the time travel thing? It's kind of a weird scenario, and these villains are kind of weird. It's like, I guess they kind of want revenge. I honestly don't know. Strangely enough, in Volume 3 especially, the only character that got any type of arc or even kind of development whatsoever was Mamoru, who is Tuxedo Mask, which I thought was very surprising. None of the Sailor Guardians got any type of arc or character development or anything, but he did. I thought that was very interesting. I like his character, so that was fine by me. But the only other character that sort of got anything was Chibiusa, which she's a new character, so that makes sense. But she's a little annoying. I'll admit that. And okay, the main big issue that I know a lot of people have mentioned this about Sailor Moon, which is why I knew this going into reading this series, and have complained about it. I have not ever seen one person praise this series for having this in it, but Chibiusa, it turns out, okay, this is a mild spoiler, so if you're gonna read Sailor Moon, I feel like everyone knows this about Sailor Moon, though, because I even knew about it, hearing about it. So Chibiusa turns out to be the future child of Mamoru and Usagi, so Sailor Moon and Tuxedo Mask, which is fine. It's totally fine. But she has this weird crush on Tuxedo Mask in the past. Who turns out to be her dad in the future. So that's, like, really weird. Yeah, and at the end of Volume 2, when she falls out of the sky on top of them, she does end up, like, kissing Mamoru on the lips. Obviously, at that time, they don't know that that is their future daughter. But it's like she continues to have a crush on him because she knows who they are. So it's all on her. Because Tuxedo Mask, for his part, he does not treat her any differently. He does not, like, encourage this behavior. He treats her like it's this lost little girl that I need to take care of. And he treats her, it's more like, from his angle, I see it as more of a father-daughter relationship, as it turns out to be, because he doesn't really treat her like he loves her or anything, because he doesn't. He loves Usagi. So yeah, it does obviously continue into this volume. In this volume specifically, Chibiusa does end up, through a series of circumstances, with the bad guy. She does end up, actually she doesn't do it, I don't know who does it, but Mamoru ends up getting brainwashed, and she, like, kisses him twice. It's basically a forced kiss, basically, because he's under the influence of brainwashing, so he has no idea what is even going on. Like, when he breaks out of it, he doesn't even act like he knew what was going on. So, it's all on her. He had nothing to do with it, so it's not like he was encouraging the behavior. So, yeah, otherwise, I still really enjoy these characters. I still enjoyed parts of this story, this arc specifically. I still enjoyed parts of it. I still enjoy the characters and stuff like that. This was just so fast, and it had such kind of weird things, at least, just surrounding Chibiusa and stuff, that I ended up giving both these volumes 3 stars, because it's not good, it's not great, it's just in the middle. And yeah, there are also, at the end of this volume, there's a couple of extra short stories. One of them is Beware of the Transfer Student. This is from Chibiusa's point of view. It's basically, this one was kind of funny. They end up running into, like, a vampire. And these little kids at Chibiusa's school, because remember, she's, like, 6. So, yeah, they run into like these weird, this like vampire transfer student, and Sailor Moon and Venus kind of have to take her out. It was funny. The other short story is Casablanca Memory. This is kind of about Ray Chen, who is Sailor Mars. It's little bit snippet from her past, with kind of her complicated relationship with her dad's secretary. Like she had a crush on him and stuff, and it didn't go over well. So yeah, that expanded on her character, which I liked for that reason. Because she's kind of one of those characters that isn't expanded much on. Most of these characters in Sailor Moon don't seem to have much expansion on them, and if anything on their character development, their expansion was better done in the first 2 volumes than these 2, but nobody got a character expansion in these 2 volumes, so it's kind of hard to say. So, yeah, still enjoy this series. Still will be continuing, but I will say I was a little bit disappointed by these 2, especially with how much I loved the first 2 volumes, by comparison. So, yeah, we'll be continuing this series. It does have issues. It does have flaws. Make your own discernment whether you'd want to read it or not. But yeah, I am going to personally continue this series and see where it goes from here, and see my thoughts on it. Hopefully the next arc, which I don't know the title of that one. Like, the first one was the Dark Kingdom arc. This one's the Black Moon arc. I don't know what the next one's called. So I'll have to look into what that one's called. But, yeah. Beyond that, I don't know. I really don't have much else to say about these, but the things that happened in here weren't deal breakers for me. Wasn't necessarily happy with a lot of the choices they made, especially regarding Chibiusa's bad crush. But yeah, I will say it's not glorified. It's there. Take it as you will. But yeah, we'll be continuing the series, and I will be reporting on what I think of the next couple of volumes. So I read some more books, and we're just gonna start this clip with the DNF. Very sad about this DNF, but, yeah, I had convictions about this one, and that book is Sailor Moon Volume 5 and the rest of the series, by default. So, yeah, I mean, from my previous clip, you already knew there were issues with Volumes 3 and 4. This one just took it worse, I guess. I mean, it's different problems, but anyways, it's not a bad series overall. It's just, it depends on your convictions on things. So, this one was mainly, the couple of good things I can point out are the plot was much better paced than Volumes 3 and 4, which were really, really rushed. This one was much better paced. It was slower. It took time. Characters had their own things that were going on, and they were doing things, and they were actively being a part of the plot rather than just being dragged along by the plot, so that was good. And there was one scene where, I thought it was kind of funny, that, Chibiusa basically, like, ropes Usagi and Mamoru into making her school project for her, and she doesn't even, like, do a thing to help. I thought that was kind of funny, that she, like, basically just roped them into making it for her, so that was kind of funny. But beyond that, this volume introduced they introduced more Sailor Guardians, the outer Sailor Guardians, which, okay, why do we need more characters? I mean, I get we're doing all the planets, but still, it's kind of like, okay. But these Guardians are mean for absolutely no reason, and one of them, Sailor Uranus, I absolutely hated. Yeah, because basically, yeah, the thing between Sailor Uranus and Sailor Neptune is they're a gay couple, which, not fond of that. Yeah, and then Sailor Uranus then starts, like, flirting with and kind of, like, leading on Usagi when Usagi thinks she's a guy, because somehow, for some reason, Sailor Uranus is, like, she's, like, both male and female. I don't know. And then, yeah, it's just so, then she's, like, leading her on, even though clearly the two characters are in relationships. It's like, yeah, Uranus here, you're kind of, like, cheating on your girlfriend here. I mean, seriously, what is going on here? Yeah, and then you clearly know Usagi's with Mamoru, so what is going on here with that? And then she, like, kisses her. It's weird. I mean, that was like a surprise kiss, and like, yeah, it's just, it was really weird stuff. It made me feel really uncomfortable. I don't care for stuff like that at all. Not to mention, even if none of that stuff existed, they're just so mean to the other Sailor Guardians for absolutely no reason. And it's just ridiculous, and I didn't care for it. It was just weird and really made me uncomfortable. And yeah, I just can't justify reading something like that. So I DNF'd it, DNF'd the rest of the series. Yeah, just, yeah, volumes 1 and 2 and season 1 of the reboot anime, Sailor Moon Crystal, they were fantastic. I really liked those. Unfortunately, the way both of them end, they end on a cliffhanger. So it's not like you can just read those or watch that one without needing to continue because it leaves a cliffhanger. But then the rest of the series has all this weird stuff in it, like Chibiusa crushing on her future dad, and like the whole female-female relationships and stuff like that. It's just, there's too much extra stuff in it that just clogs up the story. Not to mention this series needed to technically be longer because you don't get a lot of what these characters are like. I mean, you get hints of it, but as the series goes on, they kind of, you don't get further development on them, which is kind of disappointing. And I can kind of see why the 90s anime added a ton of filler episodes, like, expanding on these characters, because it's like, well, I kind of needed it. So, yeah, so I can't really recommend this series because of the issues in it. It depends, like I've said, or like I said before, it's not a bad series, but it depends on what you can tolerate, what your convictions are, and, like, I wouldn't personally recommend it. I would only recommend the first 2 volumes, but then it ends on a cliffhanger, and then you'd want to continue, and it's also attached to a series that has a lot of problems, and just things that I am not convicted to believe in or promote or anything like that. So, yeah, it's a bummer because, yeah, those first 2 volumes were really good, but the rest of it just really hasn't been. So, yeah, that's kind of a disappointment, but that's how I feel convicted on it, so that's where we're leaving it. And the next book, on a much happier note, that I read and really enjoyed, even though I was very nervous I wouldn't enjoy this one, based on thoughts that both Reese and Celestia had on it, because it's also Christian Contemporary. I'm not really into that, and that is Safe With You by J. Elliott, which is a pen name for J.L. Knight, who wrote the Ilion Chronicles. She writes Christian Contemporary romance under J. Elliott, and yeah, I gave this 4 stars. So, out of the 3 of us, I'm the one who gave it the highest rating, and I enjoyed it for what it is. It's a Christian contemporary story, like I said, it's Christian contemporary romance. Not normally my jam, but I really enjoyed this one. And the basic plot line of this is Katie is our main character, and she has come back to her small town where she grew up because her grandma has recently passed away, so she's come to the funeral. And then things come up about the estate, her grandma's estate, and her lake cottage that she has left most of it to Katie, so her family, who has never treated Katie very well, is not happy about this, so they keep pressuring her to, like, sell it, split the estate with them, stuff like that. And in the middle of all this, Katie is also reunited with her best friend from childhood, Ethan. Ethan and his family are trying to help her out, help her feel secure in her new place, and just try to, you know, have her back during all this. And it's kind of just that storyline. It's these 2 characters navigating their feelings for each other. One where Ethan has kind of had feelings for Katie for forever, and he's just kind of trying to bury it, and because he doesn't want to ruin Katie's friendship. And Katie's just learning things and trying to kind of figure out how to stand on her own feet, especially when it comes to her abusive family. There are some triggers in this book, references to past child abuse from, like, family and stuff, so there is a little bit of that in there, but it's all just brief past mention. The trauma's there, it's just not necessarily detailed, and I enjoyed it. There were some parts in this book that were a little slow. I will say that. There were some parts that were they weren't necessarily boring, but they were a little slow. I enjoyed the relationship between the characters. I really liked Katie and Ethan. I enjoyed the family. Yeah, I just enjoyed this. It was just a nice, simple read with enough kind of, like, intrigue and danger and stuff like that, where it kept me interested. But yeah, I enjoyed this and would recommend it if you like Christian contemporary romance. It's not necessarily it's not written in the same way most romances are written, so bear that in mind when you go in. So yeah, I don't really know how to describe it beyond that. It's just not the typical romance plotline. Let's just put it that way. And the last three, I can't say too much on because they're continuations of a series that I talked about the first book in my last clip, and that is the next three books in the White Road Chronicles series by J.R. Castle. Those are Luminosity, I believe is how you say the title. I honestly have no idea. That is book 2. Emanate is book 3, and Radiance is book 4. I read all three of these in September, gave them all 5 stars. I am really enjoying this series. I did mean to make a vlog about me reading this series. However, with the way September went, I was I was in this weird space where I was reading and liking what I read, but I didn't want to read necessarily, and I even started the vlog of the series, but I just didn't get into it, and I never continued it, so I'm really sorry about that because I did want to do that, but it just didn't work out with the way life was going at the time and the way I was just feeling at the time and my mental state and stuff like that. It just didn't work out, so I'm very sorry about that because I did like a poll and everything. But yeah, this just continues the story. I really don't know how much to say about these books. In Luminosity, we do get the characters get all split up, so we get more point of views because the first book is pretty much just from the main girl's perspective only. Actually, it is only her perspective. The second book, we get perspectives from all of her other friends because they're being kind of scattered across the kingdom doing Issa's bidding. Things are happening and things like that. I really don't know what to say because I don't want to spoil anything. Yeah, the third book, obviously we can continue with that. In the third one, I was questioning whether we would get a particular character named Tarek, his point of view, and I was wondering at first if we would because he knows a lot more than our main girl does, especially about her past life in Raqqa, which is the Dark Kingdom. I don't know if Raqqa is how you say it, but that's how I'm saying it because there's no pronunciation guide. So, but yeah, but we actually did get his point of view in that one, so I was surprised with that. Because he knows of her past and stuff like that, so I thought, okay, maybe we're not going to get his point of view because he knows too much, but no, we actually got that, and like things happened in the third book where I was like, oh wait, I thought that was kind of happened later on in the series. Okay, that's happening now. Okay, so there were a lot of things where this series had many twists and turns where I thought it would do one thing and it went and did something else that was better than what I thought, because what I was thinking it would do was the very like typical way of like how a fantasy story would go or how this would go or this or that or whatever, but it didn't. It actually took its own spin on things, so I'm really enjoying that. Now I'm kind of like not quite sure what to expect because I'm currently reading the 5th book as I'm recording this, and yeah, I don't know what to expect now from this series because I think it's going to go one way and it goes somewhere else. So I like that about it. Definitely the third book had many twists I wasn't expecting. The fourth one, I think the fourth one's currently my favorite book in this series. There's just a lot that's going on. Our main girl has some issues with depression in this book, and I really like how it was portrayed. There are points where she is trying to make a decision about one thing and she jumps back and forth whether she's gonna go do this. She thinks she's gonna do it. Then she changes her mind. Then she goes back to, I'm gonna do this. And then she changes her mind again. Some people may find that repetitive. I found it very relatable because with her mindset she kind of had a form of depression and like PTSD and stuff like that from like her time in Raqqa and stuff like that. So I saw it as a very much, that is kind of how your headspace goes when you're in that zone. You kind of just go over things over and over again. You make a decision, but then you change your mind. Then you make it again, then you change your mind. So it kind of feels like that. So I appreciated the realism of that. Some people might find that annoying though, so just heads up on that. There are grammatical errors throughout these books. I'm not sure the author had a very good editor when she first published these. So there are lots of grammatical errors and stuff like that, but it's not enough that it takes me out of the story. I just notice it and move on. Some of them I don't notice because I'm not the greatest myself with grammatical stuff, but I know that's like a make it or break it thing or something that annoys a lot of readers. So I'm just pointing it out there because even though it has those, it's a really good story. It's a really unique Christian fantasy story. I really love this series. In fact, as of now, I'm currently reading the 5th book. There are 6 books in the series, so I'm not finished yet, but I may regret this, but I'm gonna say this. This series so far, with what I have read, this series is probably my second favorite Christian fantasy series. It's right behind the Ilion Chronicles. Yes, that I said that. It is right behind the Ilion Chronicles for me. That is a huge thing, because Ilion is probably, it is my favorite Christian fantasy series, and for something to get up that high next to it, like literally, yes, I would say this one is my second favorite one. Obviously, it's gonna depend on how book 5 and ultimately book 6 end. So, could change, but I don't see it changing anytime soon. But yeah, I really adore this series. It is really good. Like I said, it has flaws with the grammatical errors and stuff, but if you can look past that, it's really good. I really enjoyed it. I really like the characters, the plot, the setting, the different things that she has going on. I really, really enjoyed this series, and I would highly recommend it. I think this is a hidden gem that a lot of people need to know about. Like Radiance, I literally read in like 2 days. I read that book in 2 days. It's like 300 some pages. I mean, I was also feeling quite terrible that day, but also still, it just, yeah, I would have finished in 1 if I had enough time. I didn't, but because I needed to edit a video, but I also would have finished that in 1 day if I had the time. If I hadn't had to edit that video that day, I would have finished it. And yeah, that takes a lot for me, unless it's like a really short book and would be like, yeah, it's easy to read in 1 day. It's really, yeah, that says a lot for me that I would read a thicker book in 1 day or even 2. So yeah, I really enjoy the series. Hopefully 5 and 6 will stay up there. So far 5 is. So I don't have too many fears that it's going to go downhill, but you never know. But yeah, as of right now, this is probably my second favorite Christian fantasy series ever. Also, I did the Back to Hogwarts Readathon for the month of September. I forgot to mention some of the prompts that I fulfilled for the first set of books that I talked about in the previous clip, but I'm going to go over it now. I didn't fill out the whole thing. I didn't do 2 of the prompts. The first one was Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, which was either found family or boarding school. I did found family, and for that one, I picked Safe with You. The next one I did was Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, which was either secret in the title or in the plot. For this one, I did Second Chance Superhero because there's quite a few secrets going around in this plot. The third one I completed was Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, which was an animal on the cover. I did the Palamino for this one because it has a horse on the cover. Then I fulfilled Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, which was either a number on the cover or a battle. For this one, kind of cheated a little bit, but I did Sailor Moon Volume 3 because all manga volumes have the number on the cover. So I did it for the number on the cover. So yeah, that might be cheating a little bit, but since they all have that feature, I just went with it. Okay, and I also completed Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, which was either a quest or a journey, and I did a journey, and that was Illuminated, which is the first book in the White Road Chronicles because they go on a journey. And the other one, which I misinterpreted, was The Cursed Child, which was the extra plot, which was the extra prompt, which was either to watch an adaptation or play a game. I thought it meant read an adaptation, so I put a book there, but then I realized when I watched, I think, Christy's video about the book she was reading or something, she mentioned it in one of her videos, and then I realized, oops, I flubbed. But I did watch an adaptation in September, and that was Captain America the Winter Soldier, which is an adaptation of the comic books. So, yeah, I only didn't complete Goblet of Fire and the Order of the Phoenix. I didn't have any books that fit those 2. So yeah, that is it. Those are all the books I read in September. Those are all the prompts I completed in the Back to Hogwarts Readathon in September. Yeah, it was a pretty slow reading month, but I read some really good gems, so I'm pretty happy with where I ended up with things. So yeah, I hope you guys had a great reading month in the month of September as well. Hopefully we will all have a grand, fantastic reading month in October. I'm already, like I said, reading a really great book with the next White Road Chronicles book. I'm also continuing My Hero Academia, really enjoying both of those. So Hopefully October will be a great reading month full of a lot of books and manga and stuff that I really enjoy. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you enjoyed hearing all my rambles about these books and stuff. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Bye!